had a lemonade stand or had a popsicle stand or something. And then all of a sudden, that's a great idea, but then you start thinking, oh, but where am I going to get the stuff from? But what if it's unsafe? And what if people don't buy? What if they loot me? You start to think, how am I going to get the, how? You start to think of the how, right? That's normal in this day and age. The how is not up to us.
So basically, we're saying that, you still want to say something?
No, go ahead.
We're saying that the mind is very powerful. Based on this, is this related to people who actually use their mind to do things physically, or is very different?
What do you mean by that?
People who, somebody can lift the cup by just looking at the cup. Are you talking about the same thing? Or that's different? I just want to know.
Well, it aligns with the same theories. It aligns with, our mind is powerful. Our mind is very, very powerful. It's the same principles. It's not different principles.
Wow.
I'll leave it at that.
I'm getting scared now, so I'm just gonna stop like that.
Well, you know, the mind is a tool. Are you its master, or are you its slave? Does it run you, or do you run it? So, and just like any tool, if I had a hammer and I could take that hammer and, you know, hit nails on drywall and create a beautiful mansion, or I can take that hammer and cause violence with somebody, hurt them physically. It's not the hammer's fault. It's the user. So we're using our mind. We can use our mind for, there's a lot of great people that are using their mind not for good. Not great people, I didn't say, there's a lot of people using their mind not for good. But I do say that if there's such a power in our mind, with our mind, then let's learn about it, so that not to just lift the cup up and let it float in the air, but let's learn about it so that we can allow it to wield what we want in life, because that's the point, living on purpose.
Wow, that's good. That will lead me to the next question. If I'm right, you actually moved from Canada to America. And basically, the other day I was talking about environment in my Facebook Live. And I think, personally, environment plays a lot of role in making sure we achieve our goals. In fact, there's something that we call the law of environment from 15 Laws of Growth by John Maxwell, which says that in order for you to grow, you have to be in a conducive environment.
Yes.
How do you think environment has helped you in your journey? And based on that, what would you recommend to people based on what we have going on in the environment? Is it okay to move? And when is it okay to move from one place to another place? Because some people actually might be thinking of moving so that they can stay safe. So we just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, environment is huge. I totally align. And by the way, John Maxwell is an amazing author of many books and teachings on leadership. So if any of you are in leadership, John Maxwell books are essential. I highly recommend. So yes, environment is everything. And what I would say is there's many times I had to move environments. I've had to find ways to get out of environments. And sometimes we perceive it to be more challenging than others, because sometimes it's the people in your home that are toxic. Oftentimes it might be the loved one in the bed that you're sharing that is toxic, you know? So they're like, well, how can I get out of that environment? You know, even for myself, I was married before, and it wasn't an environment that was conducive for me. So I naturally had to exit. Now I'm divorced. So I get what environment can do. It harms us, and it can help us depending on, you know, what type of soil, you know, that it is. So what I would say is do an assessment. And again, this is something that I go through. I go through, there's 3 audits that I recommend people go through: a personal life audit, a people audit, and an environment audit.
Wow.
Right. So those 3 things I found to be very helpful for me, because there's certain people in my life that I want to keep so close. And there's certain people in my life that I'm just going to have to love you from afar. I've had to learn to love people from afar. So the same thing with the environment. Now, right now, Black Lives Matters, COVID-19, trapped in the house, you know, can't really integrate with society. So environment is everything. There's a lot of people, I hear, even when Trump became president, a lot of people joked around with me, Chantelle, I'm moving to Canada. You know, so there's a lot of people, there's many different places, but one key thing, and it all goes back to what we talked about earlier, by reconnecting to your truth. What's the right thing for you to do? Because there's many different answers. You have to look, are you running away or are you dealing with the situation? Because oftentimes, and I've learned this the hard way, that the environments that we're in, it's almost like a diamond. The pressure has to happen to refine that diamond so it can pop out beautifully. But without the fire and the pressure, the diamond will always remain a coal.
Wow. So
sometimes, and again, it's going to be different for everyone, so you have to reconnect to yourself or connect with a mentor, a coach, or a mindologist to be able to let them guide you to your truth, because we're just a guide, you know? So it depends on your truth, but sometimes you're in that environment specifically for you to grow, to overcome. And I learned this when I worked in corporate. I'll just share the story. It just popped in my mind, so I'm going to share it. Might be for someone. When I worked in corporate Canada for probably about a decade, and my last 6 years before I quit and said I'm out of here and I'm going to start being an entrepreneur. My last 6 years, I worked in a company where I was basically a minority. It had about 1,100 people. There was 5 people that looked like me. I worked on the investment side, so there was 1 Black man and 1 Black female named Chantelle Griffith. Wow. Chantelle Simone Griffith. So that's me. Now, with that, I was in an environment, not many people looked like me. I had locks. I was different. And I literally started at the bottom of the barrel. I started at like a 3-month temporary contract. We may or may not keep you. It was a very prestigious organization, Fortune 500. You had to write a test, an exam to get in. And God favored me to be there. And I've been blessed. Now, here's the thing. So that was my environment. It was a good environment. This is an example of a good environment. Now, how could I thrive in that good environment? My goal, eventually when I decided to stay, because at first I didn't want to be there, but which also happens when we are forced in life with something that's uncomfortable, we want to run away. I called my agent this first day at lunchtime and said I quit. The first day I wanted to run away. But nonetheless, that first day turned into 6 years. And my goal in that job was to always see if I can think and operate like my manager, my next person, the next person up. So I was like, okay, what would my manager say to this? What would they want? What would they think? And I would always do that because I'm thinking, how can I grow? How can I grow? And it's that process, I believe, that helped me elevate, because, you know, I got promoted 7 times in 6 years in a company that promotes once every 4 years.
How did you do it?
Listen, it's the power of your, I promise you, it's the power of your thinking. So that environment just, and the story came to me because I had to think about, how can I excel? How can I overcome? How can I overcome? What is it that I need to do? It was a constant thought process of how I can be better. When I'm challenged, how can I overcome it? And that's what allowed me to grow and flourish until the point where God said, okay, you've learned now. You've learned how to, and it was 9 to 5 and I didn't like traffic. The first maybe 3 years, I was kind of miserable. I would complain oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I got to wake up. And so you may be complaining about your environment right now. It may not be helpful, but depending on the circumstance and the situation, so this is my big disclaimer. If it's an abusive, situation, you want to get out as fast as you can. If it's something that's just uncomfortable, then you may want to connect to your truth or connect to a mentor or somebody that knows, like myself, and we're able to help you see what the possibility is. But I knew I was there to grow. It was to stretch me. So I took on the challenge, and I reaped reward tenfold. So that's the benefit of being able to assess the environment, see how you feel, tap into your truth. And then if it's something for you to grow, just go at it, lean in, because the results are magnified.
Wow, that's really great.
Mm-hmm.
The next question has to do with what you mentioned. You mentioned God, right?
Yes.
Many people are thinking about God now. A lot of people will say that it's time for us to receive our 666 because the world is coming to an end. Are you ready to receive your 666? And if you're ready to receive it, what part of your body are you trying to receive it on? And if you think it's not the time for the world to come to an end, let us know your perspective on this.
Thank you. Great question. First things first, the question was, am I ready to receive my 666? Well, remember, focus determines behavior. Behavior determines results. That's not where my focus is. Not my focus. I don't have an answer for that. I don't know what, that's not my focus. My focus is, my focus is on something greater than the 666. I'm not defeated by the 666. What that cannot even amount to the glory of God that is present on earth. It can't even touch 1% of it. So, and as a matter of fact, somebody asked me, Chantelle, how would you define mind mastery? My answer was the ability. It was at an interview. It was a conference I was doing about 2-3 weeks ago. And my answer at that time was the ability to transcend the mind and to tap into spirit. Because there's such a powerful connection between our mind and things of the unseen. And I call it God. There's such a power there that's how all things are possible. And that's where all your answers lie. That's why we're all knowing, because we can tap into an all-knowing source. So my focus is really, I don't know, everybody has different beliefs and different understandings. And my focus will never be on the end. By focusing on the end, I'm actually going to bring it closer to me in some way, shape, or form. So my focus is always going to be on what I want. Always. What you want. I have a saying, and this is, especially like things with affirmations and all these things that people have. In life, our language, I can have at least a list of 25 rules of how to say things and how to phrase your sentences, and avoid saying not and negatives and all this sort of stuff, negative words. But I'm going to simplify it to one key thing with our language. Say it the way you want it, believe it, and receive it. That's it. So if we're talking about, oh my gosh, it's going to come to the end, those words shouldn't, then you're speaking life into that thing that you may actually don't want. So I would always say, be mindful of that. Now, to really address the question, yes, it is near the end of times, but it's not the end of the times, and it's not the end of our world. I'm going to tell you that right now, it is not. There may be forces trying to speed up the end of the world. Will I say, however,
people trying to speed up the end of the world.
Forces work through people, absolutely. Try to speed up, but it won't succeed because there's a greater purpose. Going back to the word that we talked about, staying in your lane, staying in your purpose like you have in your book, there's a greater purpose, and that hasn't been completed yet. So I would say be encouraged. And just know that this too shall pass. Yes, we are getting closer and closer to the time, but it is not the time. So it's still a great opportunity. And for those people who know God or have a relationship with God, even those who even know Jesus, can be positioned, if we choose, in the best position right now to be able to come out of this what do we call it? Economic drought or society drought, whatever times we're calling this, the COVID and the Black Lives and all these crazy things that are happening these times, we can actually come out soaring, on top, prospering, if we learn how to master the most intangible, powerful asset known and given to man, which is our mind and spirit connection. So be encouraged.
All right, thank you. I'm encouraged.
Good.
My next question has to do with self-care, because it's also very important for us to take care of ourselves and things like that.
Yes.
How do you think people can help themselves to stay healthy based on the current situation? I think, what are your experiences and what do you think people can apply that can help them to also stay healthy during this time?
Yeah, well, health, first things first, really, well, it's just to kind of figure out, what does health mean to you? Staying healthy, what does that mean to you? Some people it's eating all green. Some people it's getting up in the morning and going for a walk. Some people it's taking time to meditate, or just be still with yourself. So I would say first is to define what that means to you, and how you define it is going to be based on your past experiences and based on what you need next. All right. The key word in that last sentence was next. There's a lot of great things that we need in general, but what do we need next? Life is a journey. It's a process. So you always got to think about that next step. So I was just on a live the other day, and somebody asked about my routine as a mindologist and what I do for my mind. And I believe that falls in self-care. I believe that falls in health, because that's really where mental health, the phrase comes from. It's like most people, or a lot of people, actually think when they hear mental health, it's kind of like, oh, those people are going crazy, or they have a negative stigma attached to it. So nobody really wants to say I have mental health problems, because then you feel like you're crazy, or you feel like there's something wrong with you. And it's not. It's just like, when I have check-ins with people, most people go to the doctor once a year, at least, for a physical, because we do a physical health checkup. Some even go as far and go to nutritionists for the food that you eat. You check in on the health of your nutrition. So same with me, you would want to go to a mindologist to check on the health of your mindset and your mental state. So it's really just the state of your mind, and your mind dictates everything. Your mind dictates your health, dictates your body, dictates your immune system. Your mind has the ability to heal. It is known in science, and it's said that 98% of all illnesses, diseases, and all ailments in the body come from your thought life. So if you're talking about health, I agree. Physical health is important, and health in mind, body, spirit, soul, in finances, and relationships, and your purpose. To me, if you were to ask me how I define health, I like to approach things with a holistic view. So those are the 6 key areas, and I'll say it again. It's your mind, your spirit, your body, your relationships, your finances, and your purpose. Those 6 key areas, that when I told you we do 3 audits, the life audit, the people audit, and the environment audit, that's really the life audit. I just shared with you my 6 elements for the life audit. So I take people through a process with that in my certification training. So you want to assess those key things, and then see what do you need most. Do you need to really focus maybe your physical self, your physical body? You may walk up the steps and you're gasping. And hey, it happens to the best of us, no judgment. Well, maybe you want to focus in on your physical health. So then you set some goals in that area. Or maybe that you keep thinking, like you default to negative thinking. You're a negative, you snap at people, you're emotional, you're reactional, you know. If that's you, then you may want to have some goals around your mental state and calming these crazy thoughts that it's like almost like a traffic jam in your mind. For others, maybe relationships. People are in and out of your life all the time. You can't hold on to a friend or to a husband or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or a wife, you know. Maybe relationship, the health of your relationships, which basically going to stem from the health of your relationship with self. So maybe you want to set goals there. So I recommend that for your self-care and for health, figure out what part you want to work with. Many times, which is very confusing and ineffective, people will go and try to set goals for all different areas. Oh, I got to eat better, and then I got to go to the gym, and then I got to, you know, take time to meditate, and listen. I never have eaten an elephant, and I don't know why we talk about eating an elephant, but I think most people understand the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So how do you run a marathon? One footstep at a time. One foot after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. So figure out what's next, what's most important to you, and then set goals, and then hit the goal, and then add something else.
Wow, that's great. Let's go a little bit towards the leadership side now, because we have a lot of things going on there. Based on your experience as a leader, if for whatever reason you just found out that you're the president of America, right? What will you do now if you find yourself in this kind of situation as a leader? What are the steps you're going to take?
For America?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is I need to understand that, again, everything goes with an assessment. Now, this may be part of my business consulting background, because I used to, when I was working in corporate, as I stayed in those 6 years, the business process reengineering certification, the master certification I have there, it's all about, this is what we did at a high level. We solved business problems. So if the way I would approach that, the way I approach that is the same way I would approach any type of leadership, especially if it's something that's already existed. I do a lot of grassroots stuff, so I start net new, so it's about building. But if I were to get into a leadership position right now, let's say in America, if I was to be president, I would first do an assessment and say, okay, where are we now? The same thing I'm encouraging you to do on a personal level, you do the same in business. That's why I loved the two worlds that I was in, because I actually collided, and that's how I came up with my methodology, is I collided the things that I learned that worked in a Fortune 500 company, at a $1 billion company, things worked well. So I took the best of the best from there. And then from the personal development world, of course, in neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis and everything that was effective, and I collided them. So as a leader, the same thing, how you would approach your life, you would approach your business, you will approach your relationships. It's the same formula, it's the same process. That's the beauty, because it's simple. You know, it's not as complicated as we often make it. So I would do a first assessment. What are the key areas that that we work in? What are some of the goals that we would want to have? Where are we now, and how do we bridge the gap? What's the problem? What's the solution? And how do we get there? So that's the way I would approach it. Literally, I would approach it that way.
All right, thank you. The next question, it's not something that we're hoping to experience or see. If somebody, for example, eventually becomes COVID-19 positive, right? How would you use your experience as a mindologist to help the person to get through the situation? Because we know that not everybody is dying as a result of COVID-19. Some are getting better and going back to their normal self and things like that. As a mindologist, what would you say to the person that will help whatever medicine the person is taking to be more effective in terms of what the person is thinking and things like that, so that the person can get better?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Well, the first thing again, how we approach one thing is how I approach everything is I would need to do an assessment and see where they are.
Mm-hmm.
If they haven't had a lot of experience working with their mind and overcoming things mentally, then there's a different approach, right? There's some, because there's some people I could say, well, okay, think this thing, and they're like, okay, I'm there. But if they're not used to it, then we have to do a different approach. So I'd kind of see where that person is at. If because your specific question is as a mindologist.
Yes.
So if I'm wearing a mindologist hat to help somebody overcome, and it's interesting because when I first came to America, into Los Angeles, that was my first contract. I partnered with it, not necessarily with COVID, obviously, but it was with a rehabilitation center. And so there was a gentleman who helped people who got in injuries and they can't walk anymore, or they've lost some mobility in their body. So he helped them physically exercise to bring the mobility back. And I was contracted to help them mentally to know that they could bring the mobility back as well, which was a beautiful combination. And so that's what I initially came here for. And what I would have done as we launched that, I would sit there and see where the mental state is at right now. Do they believe in the power of the mind? What's their belief system like? Because let me tell you, whatever you believe will come to fruition, will happen. I truly believe that COVID cannot even touch me. That's not for me. COVID-19 is not for me. It's not there's it's almost like weird to even think that. You know what I mean? When your belief is so strong, it's like when you hear it, you're like, it doesn't even make sense that I could catch it. That's my belief. It doesn't make sense that I could catch it.
Wow.
So
people who have it, it's because it makes sense that they can catch it?
Because they believe that they could.
Wow. That's a great
I know, and I say that with love in my heart, because some people have different levels of awareness, but if you catch it, then you believed that you could.
What if the person catches it and because of the fact that they believe that they're strong, they eventually get through it?
But that's the thing. And that's the great part, because you subconsciously, because of the installation of fear that the news, the media, you must protect yourself and stay your distance. I walk around the corner and I see a couple, we kind of almost collide because it's a corner. I go for walks every day, and I turn the corner couple and they looked at me like I have the plague. And they're like, ooh, and they honestly did this big turn, it was just so extra just not to come in contact with me. But they jumped first. We're living in fear of people. That was really early COVID, but I still have one or two instances like that. When I see people, I respectfully and with wisdom, I keep my distance. I don't play with these things. I apply wisdom. But it's not fear-based, and it doesn't drive my emotions because of what I hear. They're fear-based. They had fear when they saw me, right? Whether they believe they could have caught COVID or not, it's instilled in them. So sometimes it's an unconscious programming that allows that to kick in, not necessarily a conscious belief, oh, I'm gonna get it. Even though some people do say that, oh, I may get it, I don't wanna get it, I'm gonna do all these crazy things. So if there are people, and no judgment, that's just, it is what it is, and that's how society's designed it. But if you do catch it, going back to your original question, and you want to get through it, what I would do is I would work with the person's mindset and their belief system. I would actually, what they say, they say knowledge is power, and that's cute. It is. Knowledge is good. Knowledge is very powerful. It's really the application of knowledge is where the transformation happens. Wow. And so I would see their level of knowledge of, do you believe, and their belief system. And then what I would do is raise their awareness and understanding of what's possible so that they can apply it. I've done it with many different people. It's a specific way that I do depending on the person. So, but at a high level, to answer your question here publicly, I would see where their mindset is, and then I'll take them through different exercises to deepen their understanding. This is why I teach mind transformation, because we know think positive, but I think thinking positive keeps us lying to ourselves. We may know about prayer and meditation, but a lot of people think of it as a wish and as a hope. Oh, come to me, money. Like, oh, rents come to me, but they don't really connect to the strategic formula. Prayer is a formula. There's a way to pray and get answered prayers, and there's a way to not. Most people don't really realize that and connect with it. Even goal setting. We talk about goal setting, we talk about goal getting. I move into goal knowing. Once you understand the process of the mind and how you can transform it through the mind and even the spirit connection, you walk in a knowingness that you're so confident that that is already yours. Wow. There's things that we say. A lot of people say, speak in the positive and speak in the present, act as if it's already yours. You may or may not have heard of that, and it's true, but why? I work with the why. I help answer the why behind these things. So I would do that with the person who had COVID-19 so that I can increase their awareness and let them, their belief system change so they can understand the power they have access to, and they'll see the result. It's happened before, time and time again, and it will continue to happen as long as people are willing. And I say there's a disclaimer, and one of the reasons why I moved from working one-on-one to group and now to teaching is because with teaching now, I teach obviously groups of people, and I can take what you already know or what you already may know and bring a deeper level of understanding. That's my gift. That's my talent. That's how God created me. And like you said, you do one thing. That's my one thing. Since as young as I could remember, I used to have the different charts and concepts on my wall. I'd be reading different books and, oh, this is saying the same thing as this, but different ways. Because I didn't like confusion. I felt like I didn't get all the answers that I needed out of life, but it was coming and it was there, but it was almost like it didn't make sense and I didn't connect with it. So there is an opportunity for people to connect and deepen their understanding to the things that we say, the things that we already know. But I'll say this to end, to know and not to do is truly not to know. There's something missing. And that's where I solve, and that's what I come in.
That's why they say that when you know, you have to do better.
When you know better, you do better. That's it. You got it. You got it.
Any last thoughts before we end the program? Anything you want to say?
Well, I just want everyone to be encouraged, and not a false sense of encouragement, like, okay, I'm going to try to think positive. First of all, even I've heard that saying so many times, and I will say to try is to lie. So, you can never try. I'm not trying to sit down right now. I'm sitting. If I stand up, I'm not trying to stand up. I stand up. So you can't try to have a baby. You have a baby. You can't try to be, it's very black and white. So trying is really, some people even go to say, have you ever invited somebody to your house? Oh, you should come. Be like, well, I'll try to be there. How many times did that person actually show up? So I would watch our language. So I would say, number one, pay attention to your language. If you want to become a millionaire and an opportunity comes at you, or you're walking around talking about, I can't pay rent, I can't do this, and I can't, you're canting all over yourself, then it's out of alignment. So pay attention. Do your words match up with your goals? They have to match. I will go as far as not only do your words match up with your goals, do your actions match up with your goals? So again, if you want to be a millionaire and someone comes to you with a business opportunity and say, hey, what about this? And you're like, no, I don't even want to hear it. And you shut it down. What if that was your blessing? Or are you sitting watching TV and watching CNN all day when instead of working on that business plan, right? Or instead of investing, like, what are you doing? Assess yourself. What are you doing? This is all awareness. All these assessments that I kept talking about today, it all brings awareness. And that's the first step to change. So what are you saying? Does it match with your goals? What are you doing? Does it match with your goals? What do you believe? Does that align with your goals? You say you want to be president, but do you believe that you can? You say you want a nice, beautiful house, but can you see yourself in there, truly? And the final thing, which is a 4th step, is do your goals match up with who you are? So all in all, it is there is an amazing process to be able to transform your thinking so you can transform your life. And yes, you may have heard those words before. Maybe at this point, at this stage in life, it may even be a slight cliche. But let me tell you, the depth of understanding and your ability to apply it is evidence that you know what you know. And so if there's some area in your life that you really want to assess, or you really want to get better, or you know that there's more in you than the life that you're living right now, I'm more than happy to be able to connect with you. I have complimentary conversations. Like, we can have a chat. You know, I can put up my Calendly link. Just schedule some time. It would be my pleasure, my honor, because that's my goal and that's my mission, is to transform the minds of people, because there's more. You have a purpose, you have a calling, you have a gift. And if you're not living in the fullness thereof, then it would be my honor and pleasure to help you get there. And I have a very special, it's a very special time right now, because I'm having some founding members. I'm opening up for about 10 more positions for my founding members for this certification program. If this interests you, if it's something that you want to find out more about, then you definitely reach out to me. We'll have a conversation and I can extend all the special offers to you. God bless you guys, and thank you so much for having me, Tolu.
Thank you so much. Amazing discussion. I've learned so much in a little while. Now you have to make me think about and because of this, I'm going to talk about self-awareness during my Facebook Live today.
Good.
The fact that you made me realize also that most of the goals that we're trying to achieve is in line with who we are. It's good people understand that, such that they don't waste their time and energy trying to be somebody who they are not supposed to be, or trying to achieve what they're not supposed to achieve because they don't have the skills and the potential to do that. Why not just find out who you are, based on who you are, and just try to focus on that, and you have more resources available to you and higher chance of achieving that particular goal if you're in line with who you are and things like that. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your time. I'm looking forward to this kind of conversation with you again. Absolutely. I will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.